Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Anthony O'Brien. I'm the copyright advisor here at the university. And you may wonder, why is the copyright advisor delivering this? Well, in my job, a big part of my job is people come to me and they ask for permissions about reusing material that they've found. So it might have come from a book or a journal or a website, and they want to know, how can I reuse this? So as part of that, I often find a lot of free and openly licensed resources online that I pass on to people. And I thought it might be a good idea to let students know about this too. So that's how this webinar came about. So as you can see there, it's using free online resources to enhance your assignments. And I did call it that. I will be talking about some kind of non-assignment stuff too. So if you're, creating materials for, your socials or for other projects outside of university, we will be covering a lot of that as well. So let's get started. Before we get into the content, the library always likes to do acknowledgement of country. So we'll do that first. The University of Newcastle acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands within our footprint areas. So that's the Awabakal, Darkinjung, Biripi, Worimi, Wonnarua, and Eora nations. We like to pay respect to the wisdom of the elders past, present, and future. And I extend this acknowledgement and pay my respects to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us for this webinar or recording today. Just while we are doing acknowledgements, today, May 17, is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersexism, and Transphobia, also known as Ida Hobbit. And again, I'd like to just pay my respects to any LGBTIQ plus students or staff members that are joining us today. And if you'd like to know more on this, you can go to idahobbit.org.au to see what's happening in your local area. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Jenny Schoolander, my colleague who's a research support librarian, research liaison librarian, got to get that right, is joining us. Would you like to say hi, Jenny?
Hello.
So Jenny is going to be moderating the chat for me today. So please post any questions you have in the chat. I will be pausing at certain times through the session to be able to answer. And as I made mention before, this session is being recorded and the YouTube link will go out to all the registrants. So if you do have any friends that were hoping to come and didn't make it, don't worry, they'll get the YouTube link. I just wanted to point out too, because we've done a few sessions around copyright and licensing and stuff like that recently. So certain very specific questions, I may need to follow up with you after email rather than trying to answer them here. I just wanted to flag that for people. All right, so let's kick this off. Basically, copyright does tie into this because everything you find on the web is copyrighted in some form or another, usually. There are a couple of exceptions. But a lot of people get the impression that, hey, it's online, it's free, I can take it, I can use it, I can do what I want with it. That's not always the case. So there are certain things that you can do as a student within your actual university assignments and things like that, and we will cover that specifically. But for other things, you really need to look at what permissions or licensing is attached to the resource. And we'll have a look at some of these things as we go through. So licensing is basically where they say, all right, you can use this freely, but you have to give us credit, or you can't use it commercially, or maybe it can't go into YouTube. And they kind of spell out what you can and can't do with the resources. So check that out. And as I mentioned, that credit part is often a big thing of these free resources. So you have to provide attribution of some form or another. And as students, you're used to providing referencing in your assignments anyway, so that's no big deal there. But if you're doing stuff outside of your university work, important to give that credit. And the other thing that I always have to say, make sure that you're getting your materials from appropriate sites. And by that, I mean, don't go and pirate stuff from torrents, don't do all that kind of stuff, because if you reuse that material, you can really get in trouble for copyright infringement later on. For some non-copyright stuff, things to think about when you're looking at these resources, think about, how you're going to lay things out. What alignment will work for you? And I've got an example of what this means in a sec. But usually we talk about left, right, or sometimes even center alignment. What's going to work best for you? Another thing that I find sometimes that I've seen in students' works, they make things really busy. And they'll get this really great image that they love, and then they'll throw it into their PowerPoint or whatever else. And then you can't actually read the text in their presentation because the image is just, wow, that's like hurting my eyes busy. So think about that. If you're putting text or something over the top of a video or an image or whatever that you're getting, make sure that you think about can you actually read it? And I just realized too, I didn't actually talk about the resources that I'm going to cover today, so I'll just do that quickly. So we're going to be looking at some stock images, so some beautiful, crystal clear, just honestly amazing images that you can get for free. We're going to be looking at specific things for people, and specifically cutout people, so they don't have backgrounds, and also some characters if you want to use the kind of more cartoony type stuff. We're going to look at some video sites where you can get some really great high quality video, and also some things like music, some music sites. So if you're doing kind of audio visual stuff, we've got your video and your music covered. And also the last one is some icons. So you might like to kind of jazz up some text-based PowerPoints by adding some different kind of picture type icons. And we're going to cover all of that today. So returning to my slide here, another thing that I find students sometimes do is that it's basically a kitchen sink approach. So think about, do I want to go clean and simple? Can I take one thing out of my slide just to make it look neater and much nicer? And is it going to be more readable? Sometimes too, you need to think about your audience. Are there any kind of cultural sensitivities around things like, the level of clothing that's on the people you're showing, things like blood and other types of things that you may have in the images. And again, just to reinforce that option about the credit, in the Copyright Act here in Australia, there's something known as moral rights. So the creators actually have the right to be attributed for their work. So again, as students, you're doing that with referencing most likely anyway. But if you're doing it outside of a university assignments, just remember that, moral rights are a thing, and that's why we need to give credit. So here's an example of something that I mocked up a little while ago. So I was talking about alignment earlier. This is what we'd refer to as right aligned. So you can see how the dog is predominantly on the right side of the image. And that allows me to kind of focus the text and the logo of the university in this case on that left side, and kind of everything just looks nicely, neatly set out. If the dog was in the middle, the text would be over the top of it and it wouldn't look quite so nice. So this is I think a good example of some of the good quality photos you can get. This is you can actually make out the individual hairs on the dog, it's so clear. But they've also kind of defocused the background, which allows you to kind of do more with it. So this one never actually got used in production. It was just a sample that I did, but I thought it was a good reuse here just to show people what I was talking about by alignment, but also just some of the quality of the stuff that you can get for free. So I'm going to just head straight in. So just for the recordings, I've included the actual plain links on the slides. So stock images are usually things that what we just saw there. So it's a nice, clear, bright image that you can take and use. And some of them you may have seen online for things like iStock and Shutterstock. Those ones you actually need to pay for. So everything on this particular website this particular slide, I should say. So these are free sites, and I'm going to go off and have a look at them now. And you'll notice that I've got 1s and 2s next to them. So the number 1s, as you can see there for this particular slide, means attribution's not required. So you could just take it and use it, but it is appreciated. So it's always nice to give the credit where you can. And then the ones that are number 2, they specifically require some form of attribution. And it may just be, in the case of say Freepik here, it might be, images from freepik.com. So if you're doing it outside of an assessment, that's all you need to do. If you're doing it in assessment, I do have a slide that talks more about that side of things a little bit later. So let's go off and have a look at some of the sites from that slide. So this is Pixabay. Honestly, if I could only recommend one website for free stuff to people, it would honestly be Pixabay. As you can see here, they have photos. They also do specifically illustrations. They do high quality images that are called vectors. They also have videos, music, and they've added sound effects now as well. So you can see here, they're just plugging some things, but you can do just a general search. So you can see there's some reminding, I use this a lot. So there's various searches I've already done. So if I just throw architecture in, so maybe I'm doing, some stuff there, and you can see there are really high quality images that I've used this one before that you can take and use, and these are perfectly free to use. So let's say we like this one here because it's a nice blank background. Usually these sites will tell you what the license is here. So you can see here, free for commercial use. So even if you wanted to use this outside of your assessments for something that you made money from, you could do it. And no attribution is required. So I could download that and it gives you different options. Some of the sites will ask that you either create an account with them or at least do a capture, where you choose how many buses there are from the images, that type of thing. And that will allow you to do it. I always recommend go for the absolute biggest size that you have space for, because if you say wanted to crop this down and lose the fake looking plant thing here, that literally does not look like it was part of the original photo. You could kind of, the more you zoom in on something, the more pixelated an image is likely to get. So the bigger the size you go for, the better quality you're going to end up with overall. I'm going to just talk about the other options that are on Pixabay just while we're here, to save me having to come back when we get to the videos and music. But as you can see there, you can just click on that and they give you either HD or even 4K in something. So for those that aren't aware, 4K is one of the highest definitions possible for video at the moment. They are starting to come out with 8K because, technology always advances. But these are really high quality things that you can take and use. And even something like this with the record player, you can see here, if you hover over it, it will actually start to play for you. You can see something like that might be nice as a background for a presentation you're doing, or maybe you're doing some kind of audio-visual project and you just want to have something that moves in the background, but isn't overly, I guess, problematic as far as like too much movement or whatever, like the clouds in the sky. You could have that for blue sky thinking, maybe something like that. And there are also lots of animals. And you can just type in things like, computer or typing, and it will give you lots of good quality things there. The music, again, there's lots of things there, and a lot of them will usually have the different bits and pieces. If I click on that, it should give me some more information. So I can see a bit more information there. So if I want to do all that type of stuff, I can. So that was Pixabay, and we may come back to that later if we need to. So one of my big favorites is Unsplash. I find people that do a lot of different types of images, so things that may be a little bit more abstract, they quite often end up on here as opposed to Pixabay. And they also do a lot of different, a lot of the Pixabay ones tend to be landscape. Quite often you'll find a lot more portrait type things, and this may suit you more for your social medias and stuff like that. So again, nice and easy. You can just do your search. What are we going to do here? Koala. Let's see what we get for koala. And I should point out, I've chosen these particular sites for a reason. There are lots of sites that claim to be free on the web. All the sites I'm going to show you today are actually ones that I've vetted. And if there is paid content, they keep it separated out so you can tell it's paid. So it's just much easier to get to the actual free stuff. And again, I've used some of these koala ones before. So you can see who took the photo and all that on them, which is really great. And again, same as the other one. You can go and download and choose your sizes. Again, go for as big as you can. And there's other bits and pieces there. So it even tells you the licensing and what things. Sometimes you really get a lot of information about, exactly when it was taken, what camera it was taken with, all kinds of stuff, because there are a lot of kind of photography heads out there. So Unsplash only does photos. Pexels is the other big one in this field. So pexels.com. Again, this does more than photos. They've also moved into videos recently. And again, lots of different things you can do here. So let's do, I don't know, for this one, let's try, maybe we want to do something for education. We want like an apple a day keeps the teacher away type joke. So some nice, good quality things there. Interestingly enough, it actually picked up an iPhone. So I usually suggest to people to be careful of things that include trademarks or anything like that. So for an assignment, that wouldn't be too bad, but if you're using your own materials, it may kind of cause some issues for you for the trademark reason. So something like this is probably a better option because the logo is obscured. But again, people love taking photos, and obviously people love sharing photos. And this is a way that they can do it. If you do really, really like something, by the way, a lot of these sites have an option where you can usually like buy a person a coffee or something like that. So if you do want to contribute, you can, but you don't have to. So lots of lovely free stuff there. So Freepik, this is another one that goes across a number of my slides, and you can see why here. We've got the stuff like the vectors, it's got illustrations, photos. It also has templates. They do particular things for social media. You can create mock-ups. So if you're in a design course and you need to create particular mock-ups of, you know, coffee mugs or website screens or anything like that, this is where mockups is good. They also have some generic backgrounds, and they have some options for you to create logos. And again, all of this is free. Freepik does require some attribution, and usually it includes it on it. But you can also usually scroll down and find the licensing information here, and it will tell you what you need to do if you're using it in a particular way. So again, I'll just go into the photos very quickly here. And they have lots of different bits and pieces that you can take and use. So they obviously work a lot with backgrounds and things like that, but there are lots of other options. I didn't point this out on the other sites, but it's nice and obvious here, so I thought I'd do it here. You can actually choose ones that are in a particular color range, and you can choose a particular orientation. So let's go with maybe a square, because we want something for social media. So here's everything with a green color range that's square in shape already. So there's lots of good filtering on these. And the other site you may have noticed just on the end of that first slide was Wikimedia Commons. This one is a bit of a mixed bag. As you can tell by the wiki section, this is part of the Wikipedia family. So they do have some really great stuff in here. But quite often you're reliant on other people understanding the licensing and whatever behind it. So there's lots of good things there. So let's do it. Let's say, for example, like I had to do a presentation about Sonny Bono and his relationship to copyright, because he was a senator in the US. But I wanted to point out to people that he was actually the Sonny from Sonny and Cher. And for those of you that don't know who Sonny and Cher is, hopefully you know who Cher is at least. But these guys were big in the 60s. And of course, she's still relatively big today. He unfortunately has passed away. But there's lots of photos here that were in black and white. And this one here, I can go and see more details, because I want to be able, say, for example, I wanted to use this in a presentation that was going into YouTube. I can see all this is here. So they include some licensing information, which is great. And you can actually filter by the licenses. So somebody has identified that this work is in public domain in the United States because of when it was taken. So I have to kind of be reliant on that other person having sorted this out properly. But you know, if you're good with that, take that and off we go. So yes, she looks very different now. She's had a little bit of work done. But I just wanted to point that out. So just to move on with our slides, I'll go back into presentation mode. Just before I move on, were there any questions about those stock images?
No, no questions
Nope.
so far, Anthony.
Good. Hopefully that means I'm making sense. So these are specifically ones for people or characters. So sometimes you may want to include an image of a person in your presentation or your video or whatever else, but you kind of want them not to have a background. These are the types of things that are good to go to. So Office 365 actually has some pre-built. So I'm going to go in and show you that first, and then we're going to visit Open Peeps, Cutout Mix, Picnoi, and Studio Alternativi. I always get this wrong. Studio Alternativi. There we go. They have some free collections. And again, just paying attention to our attribution requirements. Number one is a no. Open Peeps is also a no. We don't need to worry, but again, provide credit if you have to or would like to. And number two is definitely in one form or another, we need to give credit for those ones. So There are a couple of different versions of the Microsoft tools. There's the actual Microsoft Office suite, and then there's what most students have access to, which is Office 365. So Office 365 is the online version. And if you don't know about this already, this is actually another free tool you can get. Because you're a student here at the university, you can go in through your email account, and you should find that there's an option to actually be able to download the suite, but you can also just directly access it online via Office 365, which is how I've done it here. So the online version includes some functionality that's not in the program. So that's why I'm specifically in the online version here with this PowerPoint. So I've already chosen my background that I want. If I go into Insert, I can go into Pictures, and it has some stock images. And then you can see here, I can go straight. So you can actually use any of these as well. They're all perfectly fine. But you can go to Cutout People. And you see how it has those little kind of boxed background there behind them? That means that they're transparent. So if I want, let's go with this lovely, happy looking lady. So I can put her in there. I think she might be slightly younger than I was expecting. I can resize her, and it will actually kind of adjust the quality as it goes. So I can have her there. She's perfectly cut out. She doesn't interact badly with the background, and that's good to go. And again, I can add my text and whatever else. And you'll notice over on the side here too, the designer that's built into Office 365 is now taking that slide, and they're kind of going with it. Like, you know, would you prefer to switch it up so that she's bigger? Or bigger still? I think it's a little bit slow. There we go. So it's kind of giving you some design help as you go along, and you could use different versions of the same slide if you wanted to. So there's some great features in Office 365. I do recommend you check it out if you haven't already. I'm going to come back and show you the icons one a little bit later, because it'll make more sense once I talk about the icons. But yeah, you can see there that it's very easy to get these cutout people, and they're perfectly formatted for what you need already in Office 365. If you're looking for something a little bit different as terms of people, and you want something a bit animated, I thoroughly recommend Open Peeps. Literally everyone I've shown this to has absolutely loved it. If you are an actual designer, you can download the library, and it will allow you to, where's it going to show me? Here we go. It actually allows you to mix and match the different parts of the people. So you can do lots of different things there. But if that's just a bit too much for you and you just want some pre-made stuff, they also have this grab and go section. So they have lots of different bits and pieces. And I do find that some of these change day by day. So if there's something you like, grab it, because it might not be there the next day. The other thing too is you can change how people are going, and they take various forms of ability and things like that into account too. So you can see there, not everybody has two legs. Some people are, you know, they're working with an artificial leg. And then you can also go to sitting, and this includes people in wheelchairs and things like that as well. So again, these do change day by day a little bit. I've noticed that these two seem to be fairly common, and our lovely friend here with the afro. I've seen them a lot. So you can just basically grab those. So if you're wondering what the difference is between the file types, PNG is a high quality standard image, and SVG is a vector file. So if you need something to be really large and not pixelate, SVG is a good way to go. And most of the creation and editing programs will take these quite easily. But yeah, like I said, if you really are into designing and do stuff, you can actually download the entire library and start creating your own. And there's lots of interesting people there. And they're actually shared under a Creative Commons 0 license. So you don't have to provide attribution for these, and you can use them however you want. But again, it doesn't hurt just to put something in, like, you know, cartoon from Open Peeps. While we are on talking about licenses and things, this one, again, just because it's nice and obvious, this is Cutout Mix, which is not exactly obvious from the naming here. They share everything under a Creative Commons license. You may have heard about these before. These are where creators can actually choose what licensing or what permissions people are given with the resources. So this one here, they've said, as long as you give them credit, you're good to use it. And they have different options. So they have Archifunky. So if you're an architecture student and you want to do something that's a little bit different, with your, people that are walking past your building plans and things like that. They have all different options there, and you can see there's different levels of funkiness. And again, you could use, even if you're not an architecture student, you could use those. They have these kind of black blobby people for people that want something a little bit different. Or, I've missed one, calendar. So these are photos of people that have kind of had their faces changed. So again, something a little bit different. I love this one, World Design for Money. That if you're looking for some people, but maybe not looking for people, it might be a good idea to go with. And this is a site I came across recently, so I thought I'd promote it. It's called Picnoy. As it says here, free stock photo for a colorful world. I probably would have put an S on there, but that's just me being interesting. So what this is, it's basically images of people of color. So if you actually want to reflect how the real world is in your assignments and in videos and whatever else that you're making, you can get the images from here. And these again are free to use, but you do need to provide the credit. But again, that's in the license. I always like these type of things because normally some of the paid stock sites essentially have a lot of Caucasian people. And I don't find that's an accurate representation of the world we live in. So this is nice here. So you can, if you want to just download it and walk away, you can get the $59. Other than that, you can go in and look for different bits and pieces, and it's all free. So you can see here, there's media involved, and she's got an iPad there, and they're working on laptops and all kinds of bits and pieces. So great to know about. Oh yes, and this is the alternate. I'll get it right one of these days. Alternativi. So this is another one where again you can see they're done, and they've got a lot of stuff around Ukraine at the moment, obviously because that's a big thing. I also like this site because they have different things here. So if you are doing design works or architecture, they have works of art, they have grass, they have pillars. There's lots of different things like furniture, just lots of great stuff in there. This particular page is already set to free. It's Bernie Sanders. So yeah, if you go searching through their site, you may end up with some paid stuff as well. But if you click the free limit, you'll end up with that. There's some lovely stuff for Halloween you might like to use, and they're just different enough that they can't get sued. So there's lots of cool stuff there as well. Any questions from the people and characters, Jenny?
No, not so far, but I'm really enjoying all of this. This is great. I've made a note of all of these as you've been going along.
I do actually have, just for Jenny's information and any staff members that are in the session, I do actually have some longer lists. These are ones that I just picked out specifically that I thought students might like. There are some others that may be different for staff as well, if you want to reach out to the copyright email, which I'll show a little bit later. So Pixabay again has popped up here for our stock video, but there's some, so is Pexels, but there's 3 other newbies here that I really like. There's cover with 2 R's.co, Mixkit.co, and Vitivo.net. So again, just going through that attribution process. Anything with 1 is attribution not required, but in this case, it's appreciated. And 2, which is Vitivo, I should say, requires attribution. So this one is basically a mix of stuff that doesn't need it necessarily and stuff that does. So it's worthwhile just paying attention on those pages. So where are we? We're up to cover. Yeah, so again, we had a quick look at Pexels and Pixabay already. So we're just going to go straight into cover. They actually do some nice kind of groupings. So say, for example, you're doing something around Pride Week or Ida Hobbit, as it is today, you can go in and there's some stock videos there that they've classified. Again, if there is anything paid, they put it into groupings, but just pay attention to the headings and you won't accidentally get yourself off to something that's paid. Again, there's lots of different things here, business and work. So let's say, for example, we like this one because we're doing a group assignment maybe, and we need to kind of represent that somehow. So there's actually, oh, this is a video. There you go. Of course, we've moved on to videos. We've moved away from images, but I still have that in my head. Oh, I clicked on a Shutterstock one. Of course, I have the. So this is what I mean about being careful about where you're clicking. It doesn't want to let me go back because it's open in a new tab. All right. It's because I did not pay attention to where I was looking. So let's say, for example, let's go with the one with the monkeys. That's actually related to something at the moment that if you go searching for them online, you'll find them. But you can download that. You can see lots of people have used this. They tag them really well. So a lot of these sites actually have a search option that you can do. And is it going to give me the licensing detail on this one? No. But again, you can usually go into the FAQs or the about and it will tell you, there we go, there's the license. So if ever in doubt, just click on the licensing information, it will tell you. So this one you can use for commercial or non-commercial. So again, if you are using it outside of an assessment, just pay attention to that sort of stuff and you can go and do it. And look, there's even COVID-19 as an option there. Moving on, we have Mixkit. So this one again has different things. This one does include some music and some sound effects as well. It also has some templates for some of the different programs. So again, if you're heavily into using those programs, check out those types of things on site. Some of the free sites also have a lot of things like overhead drone shots. So that might be what you would like to use. And again, they've kind of tagged some ones there. So if you just want something that's a little bit different, I've gone into sound effects. Again, pay attention to the headings, Anthony. Duh. So let's actually search up here in the videos just so I know I'm looking at something. I don't know. Let's go with, I don't know, maybe you want something French. Just, I don't know why that popped into my head, but it did. Let's go with that. French fries, of course. So, all right, let's pretend we're doing a nutrition assignment. Just because I want to be, you know, inclusive with the types of assignments I'm talking about. So there's a lovely thing there of some salt being poured onto some French fries. And some of them may spin and do other things. So there's lots of different bits and pieces there that you can download. And again, pay attention to the licensing and the headings. Vitivo is another one. And it has different bits and pieces as well that you can click on. And again, it includes templates for the different programs. There's some audio in there. But I'm going to just do, let's try, again, just because I like to be random and different. Oh, there's no poodles coming up. No, you failed me. So this is good to point out, I guess. I'm doing this live just to show you that sometimes things do fail. So sometimes they don't have videos for everything. But I saw a lion one, so let's switch. Is the search function not working? Interesting. The search function appears to be not working on this. Huh. Okay, I'm wondering if there's an issue there. Maybe if I switch it and try again. No, all right, it wasn't that they had no poodles, it's just the search function appears to not be working. But there's a lion one there, so let's just grab that. So again, this one's nice and clear. Tells you what you need to do, tells you what you, any restrictions, and there's our lovely slow-mo shot of a lioness walking that we can download and put behind something. It's quite hypnotizing to watch actually, but I'm not going to sit there and do that. So again, just to show those on the webinar for the capture. Now, music. Lots of people like to put music in. And you might think, hey, you know, I really love Maneskin. And if you don't know who they are, Google them, they're great. Maneskin are obviously copyrighted because they're signed to a recording label, and you might not want to put them into an assignment necessarily, especially if you're doing social media and stuff like that. Don't use any kind of recorded stuff. So no Dua Lipa, no Madonna, no Kylie Minogue, all that stuff, gone. But these sites give you some really great things. So Technox, I love the name. I also love the site, incidentally, which is why I put it first. It has more than just techno and dance music, so don't be fooled by the name. There's Bensound, which has been around forever. Dig CC Mixter. Vitivo, again, has come back into play, and I put Pixabay on there again just because they do it. So again, attribution not required but appreciated are the ones. And you'll notice there's a lot more twos this time around. Music, for whatever reason, more than video, people want credit for their work. So just keep that in mind. But I'm going to go and look at Technox, if I can find where I'm up to. There it is. So the site isn't much to look at, but it has a lot of great content. I'm not sure if this will actually do it because I was planning on playing one of these, but I love the 8-bit. So it kind of sounds like game music. So they will have a little player that's embedded there. Quite a few of them are on Spotify as well, and they're linked there, but they spell out quite clearly what the license is. So in this case, it's just Creative Commons. So this is the one that I quite like. So again, if I wanted to make this, I actually really like this song. I can't help it. If I wanted to make that part of my Spotify playlist, I could do it there. But can people hear the music?
No.
I'm sure that I just muted myself.
You just muted yourself.
There's probably something in here where I was meant to share sound. There we go. And I can do this because it's under Creative Commons and I'm crediting it under Creative Commons. Can we hear the music now?
Yes.
Hey. Anyway, I won't play too much of that, not 3 minutes worth, that's for sure. So these ones here, oddly enough, I thought, oh, maybe the videos have disappeared, but there's obviously something going on with the site pulling in the videos because the stuff in here is still there. But there's lots of different bits and pieces here, like Funky Love Disco Pump. I love some of the names. But you can use any of the stuff on here. You can use it for your YouTube, you can use it for your assignments, whatever you need to do. And there's some really great options for different types of genres. So honestly, I swear I lost like an hour on this site the first time I found it. It's like, oh my God, I spent an hour just playing on this, but it's really great. The bend sound is a little bit neater in its layout, and these include the playable here. So you can go by the different genres there, or we can search for some happy music, for example, and it will find all the stuff that's been tagged as happy. And again, we can play it there. There are certain ones I've noticed here that have popped up with purchase. I'm curious what that is because it says it's royalty free. I have not seen purchase on these before. So they must be including a few different things here. Oh, here we go, free license. So, oh, there we go, interesting. They've started introducing some stuff that isn't free. Huh, Ben Sound, you've just gone down in my respect of you. That was not there last week, I promise, when I first set these slides up. Otherwise, I might have left this one off. But again, just pay attention to the content and aim for the ones that say download because they will be free. I'm going to move on from there because that's really annoyed me. Dig Sissy Mixter. This one is interesting because it has lots of different stuff, but it also encourages people to make their own versions of the music and then re-upload them. So you end up with what's called a remix chain. So again, if I search for something happy, I'm just going to randomly, let's go with Happy Funky Christmas. So again, it spells out all the different bits and pieces. We can get a direct link to it. It spells out our licensing here, and you can click on that to get more information. Let's see what is on the remix tree. So where there are tags. So has anyone done anything with this, I wonder? It's thinking. So what it's doing is looking to see if there are any other songs that are built from this original, or maybe if this was built from a different original. And I've got a feeling that it's not liking my Firefox. My Firefox has been having some issues with certain sites that have active content recently, and I really should move over to Chrome, but I keep forgetting to. Anyway, that's what should have happened at this site. It should now be showing me a lovely remix tree if there were other options where this was either part of based off another track, or it had other tracks based off it, but I'm not going to sit here and waste our time. And I think I just closed that site accidentally. And I'm moving on to something else. So let's go back here. So again, Vitivo also has them, and Pixabay. And as I said, the music sites will quite often require some form of attribution, and we'll cover that a little bit more in depth in a little bit. Any questions about the music sites, Jenny?
No, not as yet.
Okay, hopefully that means I'm doing this nice and simple and everyone understands. So icons. So I talked about these before. These are maybe pictorial representations that you want to use, or maybe you want to use something that's kind of an image without having photos and stuff like that. The icons are great for that. So again, Office 365 has some great stuff. There's also FontAwesome, and this is really great if you're creating websites. I wanted to include some sites that were specifically aimed towards web developers in case you're working in those areas. So FontAwesome, the Noun project is also another really great one. These guys are the ones that actually give the icons to the Creative Commons website. So if you are looking around on there and you spot the lovely icons they have, they came from the Noun project. And there's also Freepik, which we've looked at a bit. And then there's a Freepik offshoot called Flaticon, or Flaticon, depending how you want to pronounce it. So in these cases, number one is definitely no attribution required. And number two is needs attribution. So let's have a look at those. So this is FontAwesome. And there are lots of free things. You can actually just choose free over on the side here. And it has everything from accessibility to different commercial icons, like even stuff like Alipay, which I didn't really think people in Australia will use that much. So there's different bits and pieces here, but you can also search. So say, for example, I want to search for some copyright related icons just because I'm me. Oops, and it might help if I could type. So here we go. So everything in the free icons, we've got our trademark, our different versions of registered, and our different versions of copyright. Let's go with Creative Commons. And again, there's all my lovely icons there, but you can get these directly from the Creative Commons website too. But you can, say for example, I like this one. If you are doing web development, you can insert the overall coding for this into your website, and then you can just include this iframe and it will actually bring up the icon. Other than that, you can also download an image version of it as well if you're just using it for more kind of standard uses. So depending on what level of stuff you're kind of working at, if you're doing that whole kind of web development, go ahead and grab the coding that you need from there. Or if you're just looking for something similar, just grab the images. And these icons are very nice. I'm also a big fan of the Noun project, simply because as it says here, this is their purpose. Icons and photos for everything. They do also have photos in here, but their icons are, I mean, who thinks of an icon for a llama, honestly? But there's one there. So let's do something to do with anatomy, maybe, just because I saw there's something there. Again, just to try and cover our different subjects. So, so there's some interesting looking things there coming up. And, you know, if you're doing some kind of health PowerPoint, something like this might help you to stand out rather than just a bog standard kind of, you know, dot or something else. And there's lots of interesting, and they do, you know, black versus white with black. And these are all perfectly free to use. And so we've already had a look at the other sites that were on the screen, but this is Flat Icon. So again, this is an offshoot from Freepik, and they have the same licensing, but they also have some interesting things like stickers. You can also get some interface icons, again, for those doing development, and they have some animated things as well for those that like a little bit of movement. But if I just search for, let's throw anatomy into here again, because I'm just curious to see what comes up in this one. So again, they've got some different ones here, and you can see the difference between the sites. These ones have got color in theirs. They've got different bits and pieces. I thought there was a cake for a minute there. And you can also switch directly to stickers too. And there's some different stickers. And again, if you're not finding what you want, pay attention to the filtering options that are on here. So if I only want to filter to the things that are in color, I can get rid of all the black and white ones, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me to find what I need to find. So lots of great stuff there. I think that was basically what I was going to show. Oh, Office. I almost forgot to do Office. So again, I'm just going back to my original here. If I go into my insert, so you've got here, we went to pictures before. Here's our icons. And again, we could have gone to that from the same menu we went to before, but we can go to, say, for example, we're doing something around the holidays. Oh, there's a Day of the Dead there. Let's put that in. It does not go with my slide in any way, shape, or form, but that's there. And to be honest, I haven't played around with these a lot, but I should be able to play with the colors. There we go. So I've just made it white. How easy was that? I don't really know what else to say there, because I'm just like, I really should have chosen a different icon for this one, because these two do not go together at all. But yeah, you get the point there. Office 365, it's great, and it's free for you as a student, so go and grab it. So just a couple of things to wrap up, because I notice we're getting towards the end of the session. So if you are using an assignment, you do have this option under the research or study exception in the Copyright Act. So technically speaking, you could, in theory, for assignments, use pretty much any material you want. But I try to get students to think about using these free resources, because it means as you move out of university, you're already aware of, what resources there are, how you can use them, and it's going to make your life easier later on, and also for the stuff that you're working on outside of university. One other thing to keep in mind, there's a lot of these sites don't require attribution, but that's the site requirement. It may not be your lecture or assessment requirement. So your lecturer may still require you to provide some kind of referencing for them, so keep that in mind. Quite often with PowerPoints and things like that, though, they may just get you to put, if you are doing a referencing slide, you may just be able to put a little image credit on it rather than doing full referencing, but that's something to talk about with your lecturer. And again, there's lots of different ways you can do that attribution. It might be formal referencing, it might be some kind of note, you might have a slide at the end. So a lot of it may be either up to your own choice, or again, it may fall back to what the lecturer assessment needs. So keep that in mind for your assessments. So for your own projects, lean into the open licensing or the permissions that are built into the website. Make sure that you provide credit where you need to, because otherwise you're technically infringing copyright, and there can be some issues there for you. And again, one thing I can't stress enough, if there are limitations built in, so if they say to you that you must use it as it is, you can't edit it, or you can't use it for anything that's going up to YouTube, make sure you follow that. Don't go in and do something different. So pay attention to what it is. And if you need advice for how to actually understand the license that's built in, you can reach out and ask us a question. And the other point, it didn't really work when I went to show you, but if you are taking and changing the content, think about, does the site have an option to give back? So Dig CC Mixter had that option to actually re-upload the remixes that you had, and it connects them to the original, so that somebody else might go, actually, I like your version better. I'm going to take your version rather than the original. So think about that if you are doing your own projects. So that's the end. Any questions to wrap up?
No, there's been no questions, but Melita thinks it's very cool.
This is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of other stuff, but I just limited it to stuff that I could talk about in here that I thought was interesting. There are very subject-specific things as well that I kind of left out. So if you do need support for copyright, I do have some information for students at this address, newcastle.edu.au/copyright support. You can also reach out for anything copyright related, mainly for university related stuff, to copyright@newcastle.edu.au. And if you are doing some kind of multimedia or video assessment as part of your course, and you feel like, the students would benefit from having a session of me coming and talking about some of this type of stuff, give that email address to your course coordinator and say, hey, we've got a dude here that looks after copyright and he can talk about all this stuff to the class. And I'm sure they'd like me to come along. I'm just going to show that up quickly. Normally I have individual credits on this, but I went through so much stuff that I'm just going to say the stuff is copyrighted its respective owners, and I either showed it under a license or with the various permissions that I've sought, and you shouldn't just go ahead and do that yourself without doing it. Anyway, so I'm just going to go back to this one, and if there are no questions, I'm just going to launch the poll.
Oh, yep. So while you're doing that, we've just had a couple of comments. Nicole says that was excellent. Thank you. And Noof, sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly, Noof. That's all clear. Thank you so much.
Great. So it's good to see that people are feeling at least a little bit more confident. But as I said, if you do need help around this stuff, the library is here to support. So you can either reach out to me as the copyright advisor, and again, that's that there. Or you can, reach out to just the general library chat, and they will pass it on to me or answer it if they need to.
Yep.
So thank you all again for coming. Hopefully you've learned something useful. And again, this is going up into YouTube. So if you didn't quite get some of the names of the sites, you'll be able to refer back to the video and get those later.